So there is a direct correlation between the amount of shame you have confronted and processed in yourself and your ability to apologize and take responsibility for things in relationships. My name is Trish Law. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, and I like to keep it fucking real. I'm not talking about performative responsibility in relationships, and this is something you're gonna wanna save if you have a hard time with resentment, contempt, or repair with apologies and stuff like that, whether it's you have a hard time apologizing or your partner does. I'm not talking about panic apologizing, and I'm not talking about stonewalling or deflecting or jump tracking. I'm talking about the kind of personal responsibility that actually leads to repair, which is something that strengthens relationships and doesn't keep tearing it down. An essential part of building a healthy relationship is repair, because you're gonna be a dick and you're gonna fuck things up, just like they are. Here's what most people don't understand. The issue is almost never at the root how somebody repairs or apologizes. It's the shame threshold behind all of that. I always say this, the difference between medicine and poison is just dosage. And shame is no different. You got a bunch of unprocessed shame, you will get distortion if you haven't worked on it. That's why self-awareness is like LASIK surgery for your soul. You gotta fucking invest in it. And this distortion usually ends up one of two ways. One side is the person that takes a ridiculous amount of responsibility, like an over amount of responsibility. I call them the absorber. This is the person who apologizes immediately, even when it's not their fault, takes responsibility for any tension just to keep the peace, says, oh my God, I'm sorry, as a reflex instead of truth. Usually these people are apologizing to inanimate objects. I'm sorry, chair. Feels overly responsible for other people's emotions, and leaves every conflict thinking that they're the problem or that everything was their fault. So this kind of maladaptive repair usually sounds something like this. I'm sorry, it's totally my fault. And it fucking wasn't. Statistically impossible. Fixing things nobody asked you to fix. This is typically people that fall under the anxious attachment category. Over-explaining, over kind of compensating, and over-collapsing, over-owning shit, and making yourself or your needs smaller so that the relationship doesn't wobble. That's not accountability. That's maladaptive shame management. This is what it really means. I will take the hit so I don't have to feel like the eels of unworthiness kind of moving through me. And this, my friends, is where codependency is born. The opposite side of the same coin is under responsibility. I call these people the deflector. These are the people that struggle to apologize about anything. They minimize, they justify, or they reframe their behavior. They get defensive the moment accountability is on the table. If not defensive, then aggressive, combative even, and avoids repair conversations altogether. Makes everything about semantics or context instead of real ownership. This is what it sounds like. I'm sorry you feel that way. Ooh, that fucking just grates my carrot, man. That's not what I meant. You're overreacting. Silence, shutdown, topic switching, jump tracking, defensiveness, deflection, you name it. That is not strength. That is also shame management. What it really means to them, if they were going to be totally honest, if I admit something is my fault, I will collapse into every single thing I believe is inherently wrong with me. Totally different strategies, exactly the same root. These are both unprocessed shame. So in other words, both these maladaptive strategies, opposite sides of the same coin, are both shame informed. Notice how these people always find each other. You got somebody who takes no responsibility and somebody takes all the responsibility, which are both forms of narcissism. One is more overt narcissism. The other is just a self-deprecating form of narcissism. If nothing's your fault, statistically impossible. If everything's your fault, statistically impossible. You're not that important. This is where relationships start to literally rot. I've experienced this. I know you have too. Because if one person is always absorbing and the other is always deflecting or avoiding, you never get any real repair. I'll tell you what you do get though. Number one, definitely resentment, which is the check engine light on your relationship. And if you don't deal with that, eventually you're gonna get contempt, which is the equivalent of seizing your engine in your relationship. Because it slowly erodes trust in the relationship and with both individuals and their self-trust on all levels. It took me a long time to get this. So what does healthy repair really look like? It lives somewhere in the middle, and it requires something that most people haven't built yet in themselves. The bravery it requires to take that level of personal responsibility, the capacity to feel that shame without collapsing into it or becoming it. Healthy responsibility sounds like this. Okay, you're right. I can see my part in that. Or I didn't handle that very well. Let me back up and do that again differently. Or this part is mine. This part here, that part isn't. But I care about how my part impacted you. And really what it's saying is I'm willing to stay in the discomfort of this conversation without avoiding or collapsing. Let me break this down a different way. Over-responsibility is like lighting yourself on fire in order to keep both of you in the relationship warm. And under-responsibility is refusing to bring any heat to the game at all. Healthy repair is learning how to sit by the fire without jumping in it or abandoning it, and both parties make a concerted effort to tend to it together. Another way to think about it. Over-responsibility means everything's my fault. Under-responsibility means nothing's my fault. Both are complete distortions. Both are statistically impossible. Both are shame-informed and shame in disguise. Here's the real work. If you want real relationships, and this applies to everything, parent to child, friend to friend, partnerships, performative harmony, codependency bullshit, pretending everything's okay, or silent resentment, you have to ask yourself a few things. Where do I personally over-own shit in order to avoid discomfort or tension? Where do I under-own to avoid kicking up the shame eels that are residing in my body that I've never addressed? What am I actually responsible for and what am I not? Because repair is not about being perfect. It's about being accurate. And accuracy requires something that most people completely avoid: self-confrontation. In other words, you gotta know your fucking shit. You gotta know yourself. It's not your fucking partner's job to do. If you have a hard time taking responsibility, owning, and apologizing, you haven't worked through your shame. If you apologize for fucking everything, you haven't worked through your shame either. Same fucking wound, different costumes. And until you address it, you will either abandon yourself or you will abandon the relationship, or both. Repair is a skill, and it starts with telling the truth, both parties, without collapsing and without defending. Make sense? Yeah, I thought so. Where's your personal responsibility in all this? Where do you need to do your work? Yeah, me too. All right, good talk. I see you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow.